I was cruising down Route 66 when this cyclist darted out of nowhere, swerving into my lane like he was king of the blacktop. I jerked the steering wheel hard to the left, tires screeching on the pavement, and smashed into a parked Audi with enough force to make my head spin. What happened next flipped my world upside down. The Audi didn't just cave in, it erupted. Not some blockbuster movie explosion with fireballs soaring, but a real blast that sent jagged metal zipping past my face, turning that fancy car into a mangled heap in seconds. The stench of scorched battery acid and charred rubber burned my nose as I dragged myself out of my Chevy, my ears buzzing like a busted radio. God almighty, someone yelled. Get 911 on the line. I stumbled back, watching thick black smoke billow from where the Audi's rear end used to be. Through the haze, something glinted in the dirt. A silver laptop, cracked but whole, sat about 15 feet from the wreckage, flung clear of the flames. A paramedic grabbed my arm. Sir, we need to check you out. I mumbled, I'm okay, but my voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. My eyes stayed glued to that laptop. Something about it felt off, like it didn't belong. The Audi was registered to Evelyn Harper, an old lady from Santa Fe. But that laptop? It had military-grade encryption stickers and a customs tag from Rome, stamped just 10 days ago. Evelyn Harper hadn't left New Mexico in her entire life. At Albuquerque General, the docs told me I had a mild concussion and a couple of cracked ribs, nothing wild for a crash like that, except the fire chief kept muttering about an unauthorized battery mod that should have never been on the road. My wife, Abigail, showed up while they were patching a cut on my brow. James, she said, hovering in the doorway like she wasn't sure she belonged there. I heard about the wreck. We'd been hitched for 8 years. I knew every look she had, when she was stressed, pissed, or hiding something. This wasn't stressful. Where were you today? I asked, keeping my tone steady. Client meeting in the city, she said, glancing at her phone like it held the secrets of the universe. I gotta run. Abigail, I'm glad you're in one piece, she added, already halfway out the door. Really glad. She didn't kiss me, didn't ask if I needed a lift, didn't even ask what went down. I stared at the empty doorway for a good 10 minutes until the nurse came back with my discharge papers. The next morning, Abigail was gone. Her clothes, her earrings, her laptop, poof, like she'd never existed. All she left was a note on the kitchen counter, need time to clear my head. Don't come looking. I dialed her number, disconnected. Called her office, they said she'd taken sudden leave. I rang her brother in Denver. She's got some personal stuff going on, James, he said, voice cold as a mountain wind. Give her space. What kind of stuff? I pressed. The kind that's not your concern anymore. Click. Line dead. 3 days later, an envelope showed up in my mailbox, no sender. Inside, a single sheet with 10 words typed in an old-school font, your wife wants to stay lost. Some marriages can't be saved. I read it 6 times before my hands quit trembling. 20 days after Abigail vanished, she strolled back in. I was at the kitchen table, munching toast and sorting through insurance forms, when I heard her key in the lock. She walked in like it was just another Tuesday, hauling the same suitcase we'd used on our honeymoon to Sonoma. Hey, she said, barely meeting my gaze. Hey yourself, I shot back. She looked different, tanned, calm, like she'd just come off a vacation. Her hair was cropped short, styled fancy, probably cost a fortune. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen, all sleek and pricey looking. I know you've got questions, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. Just one, I said. Where'd you go? A private retreat near Tucson, she answered, folding her hands neatly. For my stress. I should have told you, but I was ashamed. The anxiety was getting bad. I'd lived with her for 8 years. Anxiety? She'd never had so much as a nervous twitch. What's the place called? I asked. Sun Valley Recovery, she said, smooth as butter. I almost bought it. They've got a no-contact rule for the first month. Part of the process. I nodded, taking a bite of toast. Sounds legit. Her shoulders relaxed, just a flicker. I'm sorry I scared you, she said. Don't sweat it. Just glad you're doing better. That afternoon, while Abigail was upstairs unpacking, I called my old college buddy, Marissa Kent. She'd gone on to become a top-notch forensic accountant in Southern California. If anyone could dig into what my wife was really up to for 3 weeks, it was Marissa. "James, it's been ages," she said over the phone. "What's up?" "It's messy," I told her. "I need a favor." We met at a diner in Santa Monica. Marissa hadn't changed a bit, blonde hair in a no-nonsense bun, blue eyes that caught every detail, dressed sharp but not flashy. "All right," she said, settling into the booth. "What's the deal with your wife?" I laid it all out, the crash, her disappearing act, the weird note, the Tucson retreat story. Marissa listened, jotting notes in a slim black notebook, not saying a word until I was done. "Sun Valley Recovery," she repeated. "That's what she said." "Yeah," I confirmed. She tapped away on her phone for a minute, her face growing grim. "James, there's no Sun Valley Recovery in Tucson. Never was." My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. "Maybe I got the name wrong," I said. "I checked every clinic, spa, and hospital in Arizona. Nothing fits." She leaned in. "Where do you think she really was?" I thought about that note, the way Abigail's eyes slid away when she mentioned the retreat, the new dress, the high-end haircut. "I don't know," I said. "But I need to find out." Marissa flipped to a clean page in her notebook. "I'll need access to your bank accounts, credit cards, anything with her name on it. And James, this could get rough." "How rough?" I asked. "The kind of rough that turns your life upside down." 2 days later, Marissa called. She wasn't in Arizona, she said, straight to the point. She was in Zurich. I almost dropped my phone. Zurich? Like Switzerland? Like the banking hub. Someone covered first-class tickets, a penthouse at the Grand Older, and dinners at places where a steak costs more than my rent. The credit card was in Abigail's name, but the money trail led to an account registered in Lisbon. Lisbon, same as the customs tag on that laptop from the Audi crash. Who owned the account? Here's where it gets wild. It was tied to a company called Horizon Ventures, owned by a guy named Malcolm Reed. Sound familiar? I racked my brain. Nope. Should it? He's a big-shot real estate guy, deals in high-end properties. His website brags about exclusive retreats for elite clients. The kind of dude who builds mansions for folks looking to hide cash. And he footed the bill for my wife's little getaway. Seems like it. James, Marissa added, there's more. I found charges for jewelry, designer clothes, and spa days, about $45,000 worth. This wasn't a work trip. I sat in my truck outside the diner for a half hour after Marissa left, staring at the phone numbers she'd scribbled in my notebook. Malcolm Reed's personal line, she'd said, if I wanted to confront him about Abigail. I nearly dialed him right there. Nearly. Instead, I drove back to our place in Santa Fe and watched Abigail whip up dinner, humming to herself as she diced onions. She seemed happier than she'd been in ages. Good day? I asked, leaning against the counter. Better now that you're here, she said, flashing a smile over her shoulder. I was thinking we could plan a trip soon. Maybe Napa. I know this cozy little bed and breakfast. Sounds pricey, I said. Don't stress about the cost, she replied. I've landed some new clients. Big money projects. That night, lying next to her in bed, I stared at the ceiling, wondering how long she'd been plotting to ditch me, and more importantly, why she came back. Malcolm Reed looked exactly like you'd picture a high-rolling real estate tycoon based out of Lisbon. Tall, decked out in tailored suits, with a tan that screamed private yachts in the Mediterranean. His LinkedIn had him posing with European bigwigs and standing in front of sleek skyscrapers in cities I couldn't even spell. But it wasn't his money that caught my eye. It was his smile, too big, too smug, like a guy who'd never heard the word no. I spent 3 days digging into him before I worked up the nerve to call. Horizon Ventures, Malcolm speaking, he answered, his voice smooth, polished, the kind that charms folks at fancy galas. Mr. Reed, this is James Colton. I think you know my wife, Abigail. A pause hung in the air. Ah, James, he said. Abigail's mentioned you quite fondly. Has she? I said, keeping my tone even. She talks about you with real warmth, he said, but his words sounded off, like he was chewing on something sour. I'm calling to thank you for treating her so well in Geneva. The hotel, the dinners, the shopping, really generous of you. Another pause, longer this time. I'm not sure what you're getting at, he said. The grand older, $45,000 charged to your Lisbon account. Ring any bells? The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Perhaps, he said at last, we should discuss this face to face. We settled on a meeting spot, a trendy bistro in San Diego called The Exchange, where tech bros dropped hundreds on fusion plates. Malcolm showed up 15 minutes late, probably on purpose to throw me off. It worked. James, he said, sliding into the booth with the ease of a guy who'd never lifted anything heavier than a wine glass. Good to meet you. Yeah, same, I said. He ordered a bottle of wine without asking me, some high-end stuff judging by the waiter's raised eyebrow. So, he said once we were alone, you want to talk about Abigail? I want to know what my wife was doing in Geneva for 3 weeks, I said, leaning forward. Malcolm flashed that same cocky grin from his photos. She was consulting. I'm developing a resort in Santa Barbara. Very private. Abigail's got a knack for interior design, especially custom fixtures. $45,000 worth of knack? I shot back. Rich folks have expensive tastes, he said, shrugging. I studied his face, searching for a lie. He wasn't telling the whole truth, but something about Abigail and design work felt real. Why Geneva? I asked. Why not meet here? I like to keep business discreet, he said, away from prying eyes. Prying eyes like husbands? His smile slipped, just for a second. Prying eyes like regulators. U.S. tax laws are a nightmare. There it was, the first chink in his armor. And Abigail helps you dodge those laws? I pressed. She's clever with financial setups, he said, raising his glass. You should ask her yourself. That night, I was the one making dinner while Abigail tapped away on her laptop at the kitchen table. She'd been glued to that thing lately, slamming it shut whenever I got close. How's your day going? I asked, setting a plate of grilled chicken in front of her. Fine. Hectic, she said, eyes still on the screen. New client? I asked, sitting across from her. Maybe. Still ironing out the contract, she said, finally looking up. Anything juicy? I asked, cutting into my food a little harder than I meant to. Just dull paperwork, she said. Permits, tax documents. She closed her laptop and met my gaze. James, you okay? You've been off since I got back. This was my shot. I could have called her out on Geneva, Malcolm, the $45,000. I could have demanded answers and probably gotten them, along with tears and promises to make things right. Instead, I said, I've been thinking about our taxes. Taxes? She asked, surprised. Yeah, Marissa mentioned some deductions for small businesses run from home. Could be worth checking out. Her face brightened. What kind of deductions? Stuff like equipment, travel, client dinners, I said, watching her closely. Might save us a chunk. I slid a folder from under my chair. Marissa put together some draft forms, nothing set in stone, just to see if we qualify for those deductions. The paperwork was legit looking. I'd spent a couple of hours at Marissa's office that afternoon, having her whip up tax documents that needed both our signatures but weren't binding yet. Abigail leafed through them, her eyes lighting up with interest. This could save us a fortune, she said. Only if we both sign, I replied, watching her closely. Joint filing. She grabbed a pen without scanning the fine print, missing the clause on page 3 that pinned her with liability for any tax issues, including unreported overseas income. Done, she said, scrawling her name with a quick flourish. When do we submit these? Soon, I said, staring at her signature as it dried on the paper that could unravel her world. Real soon. The call hit at 6:15 a.m. on a Wednesday. Mr. Colton, this is Agent Carla Bennett from the IRS. We need to talk about your 2023 tax return. I was brushing my teeth when Abigail picked up, her voice filtering through the bathroom door. I could hear her tone shift from puzzled to frantic in about 20 seconds. There's got to be a mix-up, she was saying. I reported everything, always do. By the time I got to the kitchen, she was pacing in her robe, clutching the phone like it was her only lifeline. Yes, I'll pull the records together. How soon do you need them? She hung up, her eyes wild as she turned to me. The IRS is auditing us, she said. They're asking for records on foreign income and crypto transactions. I poured my coffee, acting like it was just another morning. Foreign income? We don't have any of that. That's what I told them, she said, her hands trembling. But they've got records of deposits from some outfit called Horizon Ventures, $45,000 wired through Geneva. Horizon Ventures? I said, furrowing my brow like I was drawing a blank. Doesn't sound familiar. James, this is bad, she said, slumping into a chair. If they think we're hiding offshore money, we could be looking at jail. My coffee tasted like dirt, but I kept my face neutral. Maybe you should call that new client you mentioned, I suggested. The one with the permits and tax forms. Maybe they know something about Horizon Ventures. Abigail froze, her face going blank. What new client? The one you talked about, with the paperwork, I said. That's just local stuff, she said quickly. Nothing to do with foreign accounts. I set my mug down and looked her dead in the eye. Then where's this $45,000 from Geneva coming from? Her mouth opened, shut, opened again. I don't know, she finally muttered. 3 hours later, my phone rang. This time, it was for me. Mr. Colton, Agent Bennett here. We have reason to believe your wife was working with Malcolm Reed on real estate projects. Ever heard of him? I let my voice sound puzzled. Malcolm Reed? Never heard the name. Our records show significant payments from his company to your wife, she said. Since you filed jointly, you're both on the hook for any unreported income. Agent Bennett, there's got to be a mistake, I said. Abigail does interior design, local jobs, not international real estate. Sir, we have bank records showing transfers from Lisbon to accounts in your wife's name. Are you saying you didn't know about these? Completely in the dark, I said. A pause. Mr. Colton, we'd like you to come in for an interview tomorrow. Bring all financial records for the past 2 years. Of course, I said. Should I bring Abigail? That would be best. I hung up and glanced at Abigail, who'd been eavesdropping from the doorway. They want us tomorrow, I said. James, she said, her voice shaky, I need to tell you something. Here it was, I thought, the truth, at last. I might have done some consulting work I didn't report right, she said. Nothing shady, just a slip-up. What kind of work? I asked, leaning back. Financial planning for wealthy clients who want discretion, she said, starting to pace. Discretion from what? Taxes, regulations, messy divorces. She stopped short. It's not money laundering, James. It's a legal tax strategy. With Malcolm Reed? I asked. She went rigid. How do you know that name? The IRS knows it, I said, standing up and stepping closer. They know about Geneva, the $45,000, Horizon Ventures. So, what else don't I know? Abigail stared at me for a long moment, then turned to the window, looking out at our quiet street in Albuquerque's North Valley. Malcolm deals in crypto exchanges, she said, not facing me. He takes questionable funds and funnels them through real estate deals. I help him route money through U.S. accounts to skirt EU banking rules. In return, he pays me. How much? I asked, my voice low. $180,000 over the last 9 months, she said. The number hit me like a punch to the gut. It's sitting in a Bermuda account, earning 10% interest. I sank into a chair. Jesus, Abigail. I was going to tell you once I hit $400,000, she said. We could have cleared the mortgage, taken that Italy trip you're always talking about. By cleaning dirty money? I asked. It's from real estate, James, she said, turning to face me. Luxury projects in Lisbon, Zurich, Geneva, rich folks buying condos to dodge taxes. It's not drugs or guns. It's still illegal, I said. Illegal enough to put us both behind bars. For the first time since the IRS call, Abigail looked truly scared. What do we do? She whispered. I pulled out my phone and dialed Marissa. Marissa, it's James. I need that favor now. She met us that evening at a law office in San Diego's Gaslamp Quarter, a cramped building wedged between a taco joint and a shop selling custom leather goods, the kind of place that handled problems best swept under the rug. This is Raymond Park, Marissa said, introducing us to a wiry man in his late 50s, his eyes sharp as a hawk's. He specializes in tricky financial cases. Raymond motioned for us to sit in worn leather chairs across from a desk bare except for a single folder. I've looked over your situation, he said, cutting to the chase. Mrs. Colton, you're in deep trouble. The IRS has flagged your accounts for crypto laundering, unreported foreign income, and potential racketeering violations. If the IRS could prove Abigail knew the money was tied to organized crime, she was looking at a decade or more behind bars. But I didn't know, she said, her voice tight. Doesn't matter, Raymond replied, flipping open his folder. Ignorance isn't a defense in their eyes. He leaned forward. But you've got options. Cooperation could be one. The IRS wants Malcolm Reed more than they want you. Hand over evidence of his dealings, and they might cut you a deal. I felt Abigail stiffen beside me. What kind of evidence? She asked. Bank records, emails, client details, everything you know about how he moves cash, Raymond said. Best case, you get 2 years in a low-security facility, pay back what you owe, and you're banned from finance work for life. Worst case? His face stayed stone-cold. 15 years in a federal pen, and your husband goes down with you for signing off on false tax returns. The room went quiet, save for the faint hum of traffic on Market Street. How long do I have to decide? Abigail asked, her voice barely above a whisper. They want an answer by Friday, Raymond said. 3 days. We left the office without a word. Outside, a thick fog was creeping in from the coast, turning the streetlights into hazy glows. Abigail pulled her jacket tight. James, I'm so sorry, she said. I never meant for this to spiral. I know, I said, but my voice was flat. Do you? She shot back. Because it feels like you can't stand me right now. I stopped and faced her. I don't hate you, Abigail. I'm just let down. There's a difference. Is there? She muttered. We climbed into the car and drove back to our place in Albuquerque's North Valley in silence. In the driveway, she finally spoke. I'm going to cooperate, she said. I don't have a choice. Good, I said. Will you wait for me? She asked, her voice cracking. While I'm locked up. 2 years, Raymond had said. 2 years of visiting hours, collecting calls, and an empty bed. I don't know, I said, and I meant it. That night, while Abigail tossed and turned beside me, I lay awake, piecing together the mess that had landed us here. The Audi crash, the anonymous note, those fake tax forms she'd signed so eagerly, everything was connected. The encrypted laptop, Malcolm Reed, the money laundering scheme. It was all part of the same trap. But one question gnawed at me: who wanted me to know about Abigail's secrets? The answer hit me at 3 a.m., clear and chilling. Whoever sent that note knew what was coming next. Malcolm called. Thursday morning while Abigail was out grabbing groceries. James, my friend, he said, his voice smooth as ever. I hear you're in a bit of a bind. Word gets around, I said, carrying the phone to the living room window. I watched our neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, walk her old beagle, life going on like mine wasn't falling apart. What do you want, Malcolm? To help, he said. Your wife is a valuable asset. Smart, discreet, charming. It'd be a shame to see her rot in an American prison. She made her bed, I said coldly. Did she? He asked. Or did someone make it for her? His tone made me pause. What's that supposed to mean? Those tax forms she signed so quickly, he said. Perfect timing, no? Just before the IRS comes knocking. My stomach dropped. How do you know about those forms? I know a lot, he said. Like how Marissa Kent was digging into Horizon Ventures weeks before Abigail got back from Geneva. Either you're sharper than you let on, or someone's pulling the strings. He was right, and it hit like a freight train. The note, Marissa's digging, the tax forms, it was all orchestrated. But by who? Who's behind it, Malcolm? I asked. That's what I'm trying to figure out, he said. But first, I've got an offer for you. Meet me tonight, San Diego Pier, Dock 9. Come alone. Why would I trust you? I asked. Because it's not just your wife in the crosshairs, James. Someone wants us both taken down. And I think you know who. The line went dead. I spent the day chewing on his words. Someone wants us both destroyed. But who? And why? The pier was shrouded in fog and nearly deserted when I showed up at 9 p.m. Malcolm was at the end of Dock 9, puffing a cigarette, staring out at the dark water. You showed, he said, not turning around. I'm here, I said. Speak. He flicked his cigarette into the bay. 6 months back, I got an anonymous tip, he said. Detailed info on an American woman who could help with crypto transfers. Name, number, even a photo. Abigail, I said, my gut twisting. Yeah, he said. Came with proof she'd done similar work for others. Small time, but slick. I felt the ground shift. What others? Real estate attorneys in San Diego, tax guys in Orange County, he said. Nothing outright illegal, just clever accounting. Someone had set her up. Set us both up. Same person who tipped off the IRS about our deal, he said, pulling out his phone to show me a text from 3 days ago. Horizon Ventures under federal investigation. Cut ties with American contacts now. Sent from a burner, he said. Same source that hooked us up. The fog thickened as I tried to wrap my head around it. Someone had roped Abigail into Malcolm's world, then triggered the IRS to bring them both down. Why? I asked. Good question, he said. Who's got the resources and patience to hate you this much? I ran through everyone who might have it out for me, maybe an old insurance client with a grudge, but none had the brains for a scheme this elaborate. Malcolm, I said, that Audi I crashed into. That laptop inside had a Lisbon Customs tag. His face paled under the streetlight. What kind of laptop? Military-grade encryption, fresh travel stickers, I said. He ran a hand through his hair. That was mine, he said. Backup files for all my clients, including Abigail. Stolen from my hotel 2 weeks ago. I thought it was a random grab, but, he looked at me, realizing dawning. Someone wanted you to find it. The pieces were clicking, but the picture was insane. Malcolm, who else knew about you and Abigail? Just 3 people, he said. Her, me, and my stateside partner. Who's that? He lit another cigarette, his hands unsteady. Marissa Kent, he said. Smart, careful, runs all our U.S. operations. I drove home through the fog, my head spinning. Marissa, my oldest friend, the one I trusted to dig into Abigail's disappearance, had been pulling the strings all along. But why? The house was pitch black when I pulled into the driveway. Abigail's car was gone. She was probably at her brother's place in Denver, drowning her fears in a glass of Merlot, trying to figure out how to dodge a federal prison sentence. I sat in my truck for a long time, wrestling with Marissa's motives. Then I went inside and started digging. It took 3 hours to find what I was looking for, a dusty box of college photos stashed in the garage. I sifted through dozens of snapshots until I landed on the one I remembered. Marissa and me at a frat party sophomore year, standing close, her hand on my shoulder. We dated for 5 months before I met Abigail. It wasn't serious, just college stuff. But Marissa had taken the breakup harder than I expected, ghosting me for a year until she heard I was engaged. Then she turned into the perfect friend, always there, always supportive, always watching. My phone buzzed. Marissa's number. James, I heard about the IRS mess, she said, her voice warm, like she was still my rock. You holding up okay? I'm fine, I said, keeping my tone flat. Where's Abigail? At her brother's. I needed some space to think. Smart move, she said. This must be tearing you both apart. Marissa, can I ask you something? I said. Shoot. Why didn't you tell me you knew Malcolm Reed? Dead silence. Then, who said I know Malcolm? He did, I said. Said you two have been business partners for a while. James, there's a misunderstanding, she said, her voice tightening. Cut the act, Marissa, I snapped, pacing the kitchen. I know you set Abigail up with Malcolm. I know you tipped off the IRS. I know you planted his laptop in that Audi. My anger surged with every word. What I don't get is why. Why do you think so, she said, her tone ice cold now. Because I picked her over you 20 years ago? Marissa laughed, sharp and bitter. You think this is about some college fling? Then what's it about? I demanded. It's about fairness, James, she said. Your wife's a selfish, scheming woman who married you for stability while waiting for a better deal. She deserved to be called out. So you ruined her life? I said. I gave her what she wanted, easy cash and a flashy guy on the side, Marissa said. Was it illegal? Not my problem. You made it illegal, I shot back. Malcolm's deals were already shady, she said. I just helped him go full criminal. Abigail could have walked away any time. I sank into a chair, reeling from the depth of Marissa's betrayal. The anonymous note, the fake tax forms, every move was hers. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked. "Since the day you married her," she said. "I watched you shrink for 8 years, James, while she took everything and gave nothing back. You deserved better." "That wasn't your call to make," I said, my voice shaking. "I've loved you for 20 years, she said, her words heavy, like a blade. "Waiting for you to see what was right in front of you." "Marissa, you're out of your mind," I said. "I'm thorough," she corrected. "Abigail goes to prison, Malcolm gets deported, and you finally see I'm the only one who's ever truly cared about you." "By framing my wife?" I said. "By showing you who she really is." I hung up and immediately called Malcolm. "She's going to vanish," I said when he picked up. "Marissa. She'll be gone before the IRS can pin anything on her." "Already gone," Malcolm said, his voice grim. "Her place is cleared out, accounts drained." "Real professional," I muttered. "What about Abigail?" he asked. "What about her?" "She still broke the law, James. Marissa may have set it up, but that doesn't change the facts." He was right. Abigail would still face prison, still lose everything. Marissa had made sure she'd fall alone. "Malcolm," I said, "she said your operation was already in gray territory. Is that true?" A pause. "Maybe," he said. "What kind of maybe?" "The kind where your wife knew exactly what she was signing up for," he said. "Marissa connected us, but Abigail chose to take the money." I shut my eyes, the weight of it all sinking in. "So everyone's dirty," I said. "Even you." But that wasn't entirely true. I'd signed those tax forms just as eagerly as Abigail, claiming deductions I knew were shaky. The only difference was I hadn't known about the offshore accounts yet. The federal courthouse in San Diego looked like a fortress of red tape, cold stone and narrow windows screaming that the government held all the power. Abigail met me on the steps, dressed in a dark suit that made her look like she was heading to her own grave. "Are you ready for this?" I asked. "Not even close," she said. Inside, Agent Bennett was waiting with a team of prosecutors in suits in a conference room that reeked of burnt coffee and bad decisions. "Mrs. Colton," Bennett said as we sat down, "have you decided to cooperate with our investigation?" Abigail glanced at me, then at the lawyer Raymond Park had hooked us up with. "I'm ready to cooperate fully," she said. "Good," Bennett said. "Let's start with Malcolm Reed." For the next 3 hours, Abigail spilled everything she knew about Malcolm's setup, the crypto exchanges, the shell companies, the real estate deals. She handed over bank statements, email chains, and detailed breakdowns of how the money flowed. The prosecutors scribbled notes and fired off questions, but I could tell they weren't happy. "Mrs. Colton," the head prosecutor said at last, "this is useful, but we need more than just details on Malcolm's operation. We need proof of a criminal conspiracy." "What kind of proof?" Abigail asked, her voice thin. "Communications showing intent to defraud," he said. "Records proving you knew the money was dirty. Testimony about other players in the scheme." Abigail's face drained of color. "I don't have anything like that," she said. "You sure?" Bennett pressed. "No texts, emails, recorded calls?" "Malcolm was careful," Abigail said. "Anything important was face-to-face." The prosecutor leaned back, arms crossed. "That's a problem," he said. "Without proof of criminal intent, we can't offer the plea deal we talked about." "What's that mean for us?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "It means Mrs. Colton faces charges for money laundering, tax evasion, and defrauding the government," he said. "She's looking at 15 to 20 years. The room went dead quiet, just the buzz of overhead lights cutting through. "But," he added, "there's one person who could give us what we need." "Who?" Abigail asked, her voice shaky. "Marissa Kent." My gut sank like a stone. "What about Marissa?" "We know she was Malcolm's stateside partner," he said. "If we can track her down and get her to testify about the whole operation, we could cut Mrs. Colton's sentence down significantly." "But Marissa's gone," I said. "People like Marissa Kent don't just vanish," Agent Bennett said, pulling out a tablet. She swiped to a photo of Marissa stepping out of a cab in front of a hotel in Montreal. "Taken yesterday. We've been tracking her since she emptied her San Diego accounts. You want us to help you find her?" I asked. We want you to help us bring her back, Bennett said. She trusts you, Mr. Colton. She might meet you if you reach out. I glanced at Abigail, who was staring at her hands like they held answers. If I help you get Marissa, I said, what happens to Abigail? 2 years in minimum security, full restitution, probation, no felony record, Bennett said. If you don't, she's looking at 15 to 20 in max. It wasn't really a choice. What do I need to do? Bennett's lips curved slightly, the first hint of a smile. Make a call. I dialed Marissa from the Federal Building's parking lot while Abigail sat in the car, picking at her nails. The phone rang 5 times before she picked up. James, she said, her voice smooth as ever. Figured you'd call. Where are you, Marissa? Does it matter, she said. Far enough that your Fed buddies can't touch me. They've got pictures of you in Montreal, I said. A beat of silence. Clever, she said. But Montreal's just a pit stop. Marissa, come back, I said. Help us put this to bed. Why would I do that, she said. I gave you what you wanted, proof Abigail was stepping out and dipping into dirty money. The fact that came with consequences isn't on me. You set it all up, I said, gripping the phone. Hooking her up with Malcolm, the laundering, the IRS audit, every bit of it. I opened the doors, James, she said. Abigail walked through them. I heard faint airport announcements in the background. She was moving again. The feds want a deal, I said. Come back, testify, and they'll go easy on Abigail. Maybe you too. I don't need a deal, she said. I've got enough cash to disappear for good. Malcolm's cash, I said. My cash, she corrected. I earned it by cleaning up his messy operation and covering his tracks. Marissa, please, I said. If you ever gave a damn about me, help me now. The line went quiet, just the hum of jet engines in the distance. I do care about you, James, she said at last. That's why I did this. Abigail was a leech. She'd have ditched you for someone like Malcolm eventually. I just made sure you saw it before she cleaned you out. By torching her life. I said. By showing you the truth, she said. The fallout's not my problem. What about my fallout? I said. If Abigail gets 20 years, I lose everything, our home, my business, my name. Is that what you wanted? A long pause. No, she said softly. That's not what I wanted. Then come back, I said. Fix this. I can't, she said. If I testify, they'll hit me with everything they've got on Abigail. I'd spend my life in a cell. Maybe not, I said. They want Malcolm more than you. Malcolm's gone, she said. Private jet to Lisbon this morning. He's probably sipping cocktails in his villa by now. The background noise shifted, she was moving through a terminal. Marissa, where are you really headed? Somewhere with no extradition and great sunsets, she said. That's not you, I said. You're not a runner. You don't know me, James, she said. You never did. The line went dead. I sat in my truck for 15 minutes, staring at my phone. Then I trudged back into the Federal Building and told Agent Bennett Marissa wasn't coming back. We figured, she said, unfazed. Which brings us to Plan B. What's Plan B? I asked. Your wife wears a wire and gets Malcolm to incriminate himself before he skips the country. I thought he was already gone, I said. His jet filed a flight plan but never left, Bennett said. He's still in San Diego, probably tying up loose ends. And you want Abigail to meet him? I asked. We want her to call him, set up a meeting, Bennett said. Something believable, like she's freaking out about the investigation and needs cash to run. I looked at Abigail, who'd been listening from the hallway. What do you think? I asked. I don't think I have a choice, she said, her voice barely there. Bennett nodded. We'll set it up at a location we control, full surveillance. Mrs. Colton will be safe. And if Malcolm doesn't bite? I asked. Then we move forward with the original charges, she said. Abigail shut her eyes, like she was trying to block it all out. When? She asked. Tonight, Bennett said. The meeting spot was an abandoned construction site in Chula Vista, a maze of rusted beams and half-poured concrete slabs under a fog-heavy sky. It looked like the kind of place where shady deals went down in crime shows, perfect for a sting. Remember, Bennett said, taping a wire to Abigail's chest, we need him to admit he knew the money was dirty and that you were in on the scheme. What if he doesn't? Abigail asked, her voice trembling. Improvise, Bennett said. But don't push too hard, or he'll smell a rat. Abigail nodded, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She wasn't cut out for this. She was a suburban wife who'd gotten in too deep, not some spy. I'll be in the van, listening, I said, touching her arm. If it goes south, just say the code word. What's the code word? She asked. Beacon, I said. Why beacon? First thing that popped into my head. She almost smiled, despite everything. James, she said, if this goes wrong, it won't, I said. But if it does, she pressed, I need you to know I never meant to hurt you. The money, Malcolm, all of it, I thought I was building a future for us. I know, I said, my throat tight. Do you forgive me? I looked at my wife, standing in a deserted lot with a federal wire strapped to her, risking everything to shave her sentence from 20 years to 2. Ask me again in 2 years, I said, my voice steady but heavy. Malcolm showed up right on time, which should have tipped me off. Panicked people are never that punctual. He strode into the Chula Vista construction site like he owned the place, his polished shoes clicking on the concrete, his tailored coat untouched by the coastal breeze. Abigail, he said, arms open for a hug. You look rough. I feel rough, she said, letting him pull her close, the wire tucked under her sweater. Malcolm, I'm terrified. Understandable, he said. The American legal system doesn't play nice. They moved deeper into the skeletal building, their voices bouncing off the bare walls. In the surveillance van, Agent Bennett adjusted her earpiece and gave a nod to the tech running the recorder. The money you paid me, Abigail said, her words careful, where'd it come from? Why's that matter now? Malcolm asked, his tone light but guarded. Because the feds think it's tied to organized crime, she said. They're saying we were laundering cash for some Italian syndicate. Malcolm chuckled, low and dry. Italian syndicate? That's a bit theatrical. No, sweetheart, the money's from clean real estate deals. The crypto exchanges are perfectly legal in Europe. Your government's just got tight rules. This wasn't going anywhere. Malcolm was too slick to slip up with half answers. Malcolm, Abigail said, a quiver in her voice, I need the truth. If I'm going to prison, I deserve to know what I was really part of. You were part of a slick financial setup that helped rich Europeans dodge heavy taxes, he said. That's it. Then why are you running? She pressed. Because American prosecutors don't care about the difference between tax avoidance and evasion, he said. To them, anyone moving money overseas is a crook. In the van, Bennett shook her head, frustrated. Malcolm wasn't giving them anything solid. The feds know about the shell companies, Abigail said, pushing harder. They know about the Lisbon accounts, the Geneva transfers, everything. Let them know, Malcolm said, cool as ever. I haven't broken any laws where I operate. What about that laptop in the Audi that blew up? She asked. The one with your client files? Malcolm froze, his voice tightening. What about it? How'd it end up there? Who stole it from your hotel? I thought it was a random theft, he said, but there was an edge now. But what if it wasn't? What if someone wanted those files found? Then someone screwed up big time, he said, his tone sharp. Bennett leaned forward in the van, her eyes narrowing. This was something. Screwed up how? Abigail asked. The kind of screw-up that gets people killed, Malcolm said. Killed by who? People who don't like their financial secrets are aired out, he said. Powerful people. The kind whose names were on that laptop. Malcolm, you're freaking me out, Abigail said, her voice trembling. Good, he said. You should be freaked out. You think this FBI probe is random? You think your husband's crash was just bad luck? My blood turned to ice. The Audi crash wasn't an accident. What are you saying? Abigail asked. I'm saying someone wanted my operation, and everyone tied to it, wiped out, he said. The laptop, the Audi, the IRS tip, your old pal Marissa, all part of someone's plan to bury us. Bury us how? Prison, deportation, ruin, he said. Or worse, if we don't play ball. Bennett was typing like mad on her laptop, probably digging into Malcolm's client list. Malcolm, who are these people? Abigail asked. Rivals? Other financial players who don't like you cutting into their game. You mean other money launderers? Malcolm's laugh was sharp, bitter. Everyone in my line of work is a money launderer, Abigail. The only difference is who you're working for and how big the cut is. There it was, the confession they needed. So you're admitting we were laundering money? Abigail said, her voice steady now. Of course we were, Malcolm said, like it was obvious. What, you thought we were saving orphans? In the van, Bennett pumped her fist. Got him, she whispered. But Malcolm kept going. The real question, sweetheart, is what you're planning to do with that, he said. What do you mean? Abigail asked. I mean federal surveillance vans have a certain hum, he said. And the one parked outside has been idling for 20 minutes. Bennett's face went white. He knows, she muttered. Malcolm, Abigail said, her voice shaking, I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't, he said. Just like you don't know about the wire taped to you or the feds listening to every word. You're paranoid, she said. I'm experienced, he corrected. So, are you working with them because you want to, or because they forced you? Abigail stammered. Because if you're doing this willingly, you've made a bad call. The threat in his voice was clear as day. Beacon, Abigail whispered. What was that? Malcolm asked. Beacon, she said again, louder. I said beacon. Bennett was already on her radio. All units, move in now, she barked. The suspect knows about the surveillance. But it was too late. Through the earpiece, we heard Malcolm's footsteps fading on the concrete. Goodbye, Abigail, he said, his voice distant. Hope your Fed friends can keep you safer than they kept themselves. Then nothing. The feds found Abigail 20 minutes later, sitting alone on the cold concrete, tears streaming down her face. Malcolm had slipped away like a ghost, leaving only footprints and the faint whiff of his pricey cologne. He knew from the start, Bennett said as we drove back to the federal building. The whole thing was a play to see what we had on him. A play for what? I asked, gripping the armrest. To gauge our investigation, she said. And Abigail got us what we needed, a clear admission of money laundering on tape. But he's gone, I said. Yeah, she said, her jaw tight. He's gone. Guys like Malcolm don't just vanish, Agent Bennett said, but her voice lacked conviction. He's got properties, contacts, deals, we'll track him down. I could tell she wasn't buying her own words. Back at the federal building, they laid out the same deal for Abigail, 2 years in minimum security for her cooperation. She signed the paperwork without so much as a glance. When do I turn myself in? She asked, her voice flat. 60 days, Bennett said. Get your life in order. Life? What a strange word for the rubble of our marriage. We drove back to our place in Albuquerque's North Valley through fog-choked streets. The house looked the same as it had that morning, but it felt smaller, like it was already fading away. James, Abigail said as we sat in the driveway, what happens to us now? I don't know, I said, staring at the dashboard. Will you wait for me? She asked again, her voice barely holding together. This time, I had an answer. No, I said. She nodded, like she'd seen it coming. I get it, she said. You can't forgive me for the lies, the money, Malcolm, all of it. It's not about forgiveness, I said, turning to her. It's about trust. How do I trust someone who built a secret life for 8 months right under my nose? You don't, she said softly. You move on. We sat there for another 10 minutes, watching the fog drift past the streetlights. Finally, Abigail unclicked her seatbelt. I'm going to grab some stuff, she said. I'll stay with my brother until I have to report. Probably best, I said. She paused, hand on the door. James, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Did you know about Marissa? Before tonight, did you suspect she was behind all this? I thought about it. Had I sensed the trap set for Abigail? I knew something was off, I said. But I thought it was just you stepping out on me. Would that have been easier? She asked. Just an affair? Simpler, at least, I said. Abigail climbed out of the truck and headed to the front door. I watched her unlock it and slip inside, probably for the last time as my wife. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. James, it's Marissa, she said when I picked up. I nearly hung up. Nearly. Where are you? I asked. Does it matter? She said. I heard about Malcolm's getaway. Real cinematic. How'd you hear about it? I've got friends in useful places, she said, like the folks who wanted Malcolm's operation gutted. She paused. You've been busy. Not me, I said. The feds. They think that laptop ended up in the Audi to spark a war between rival money laundering crews. Interesting theory, she said. Is it true? Does it matter? Same outcome, Malcolm's gone, Abigail's headed to prison, and you're free. Free to do what? I asked. Start fresh, she said. Find someone who's worth your time. Someone like me. I was thinking more like someone not dodging federal conspiracy charges, I said, almost cracking a smile despite myself. Marissa, why'd you really do this? I told you, she said. You deserved better. No, that's not it, I said. You had Malcolm's operation under a microscope for months before you hooked him up with Abigail. You were already planning to take him down. Well done, she said after a long pause. So what was it? A rival trying to clear the field? The feds? Something else? The line crackled, like she was calling from another airport, another escape hatch. My dad, she said finally. 15 years ago, he lost his retirement savings to a Ponzi scheme. The money got funneled through shell companies in Lisbon, turned into crypto, and vanished into Bermuda accounts. Malcolm's operation, or the guy who ran it before him, same playbook, same routes. So this was revenge, I said. Justice, she corrected. Abigail was just collateral damage. Collateral damage you engineered, I said. Collateral damage that walked into it, she shot back. I dangled easy money in front of her. She grabbed it without a second thought. What happens now? I asked. You rebuild, she said. I disappear into whatever's next. The feds will keep hunting you, I said. Let them, she said. I'm good at vanishing. Marissa, I said, I hope you find what you're after. I already did, James, she said. Justice for my dad, and you out from under a woman who didn't deserve you. Mission accomplished. The line went dead. 60 days later, I drove Abigail to the Federal Correctional Facility in Victorville, California. It was a low-security setup that looked more like a community college than a prison, glass buildings, manicured lawns, all designed to soften the edges of confinement. 2 years, Abigail said as we sat in the parking lot. Doesn't feel real. It's real, I said. She was dressed in the outfit they'd told her to bring, plain jeans, a white tee, sneakers with no metal. The feds would supply the rest. James, she said, I know you said you won't wait, but, I meant it, I said, my voice softer than I expected. But maybe when I'm out, we could try being friends, she said. I looked at my wife, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and tried to picture us grabbing coffee, chatting about jobs or the weather. It felt impossible. Maybe, I said. She leaned over, kissed my cheek, and stepped out of the truck. I watched her walk toward the entrance, head high, shoulders steady. Whatever else she was, Abigail wasn't a coward. The divorce papers were on my kitchen table when I got home. I'd filed them the week before, citing irreconcilable differences. No alimony, no splitting assets beyond what the feds had already taken. After 8 years, we'd walk away with nothing but bills and lawyer fees. I signed the papers and mailed them that day. 3 months later, Malcolm Reed was nabbed in a casino in Malta. The feds were right, guys like him don't vanish forever. They move to places with loose laws and friendly governments, and sooner or later, they slip up. News reports said he was running the same crypto laundering game in Eastern Europe, using the same shell companies, the same tricks. His arrest cracked open a wider investigation, exposing a web of money laundering operations across 10 countries. Marissa was never found. Sometimes I wondered if she'd truly vanished or if she'd just slipped back into being the kind of person who fades into the background, always the helpful accountant, the dependable friend, the one with a fix for your problems. I hoped she was somewhere safe, living under a new name, piecing together a life far from the chaos she'd left in mine. Mostly, though, I tried not to think about her at all. 6 months after Abigail went to prison, I sold our house in Albuquerque's North Valley and moved to a small apartment in Sacramento. The sale cleared most of the legal bills and left me enough to start fresh, which felt right. New city, new place, new life. I stuck with my job as an insurance claims adjuster. It's what I knew, and the irony wasn't lost on me. Sifting through other people's messes, pinning down who's to blame, tallying up the damage. It felt like practice for something, though I wasn't sure what. The job was different now. I started noticing things I'd have ignored before, the way people spun tales about their accidents, the tiny cracks in their stories that hinted at bigger lies, the careful webs of deception woven to squeeze cash out of systems meant to help. Everyone seemed to have a hustle. I got good at sniffing them out. One evening in early summer, I was going over a claim file when my doorbell buzzed. Through the peephole, I saw a young woman with short blonde hair and anxious eyes. "Mr. Colton," she said, "I'm Jenna Brooks, a reporter with the Sacramento Bee." I cracked the door but didn't let her in. "What's this about?" "I'm working on a piece about financial crime in Northern California," she said, "specifically a woman named Marissa Kent." My stomach twisted. "Don't know anyone by that name," I said. "Really?" she said, flipping open a notebook. "Because federal records show you and Ms. Kent were in close contact during the investigation that led to your ex-wife's conviction." "Ex-wife, yeah," I said, leaning on the doorframe. "What's your point?" "The thing is, Mr. Colton, Marissa Kent doesn't exist." "Come again?" "There's no trace of anyone named Marissa Kent working as a forensic accountant in California," she said. "No license, no certifications, no tax filings. The woman who helped you dig into your wife's finances was a ghost." My head spun. "That's not possible," I said. "I knew Marissa for 20 years. "You knew someone who went by Marissa Kent," she said. "Her real name was Carla Vance, a pro at stealing identities and infiltrating financial networks long-term." Carla Vance. The name meant nothing. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because Carla Vance was found dead in Manila 3 weeks ago," she said. "Apparent suicide, but the Philippine police have doubts about how it went down." The floor seemed to shift under me. Marissa, Carla, was gone. "I'm here," Jenna went on, "because Carla left a storage unit in Sacramento stuffed with thousands of documents tied to financial fraud cases going back 15 years. Your wife's case was just one of dozens." "How many dozens?" I asked. "At least 40, maybe more," she said. "Carla Vance spent 2 decades ruining lives, mostly for profit." "Not for profit," I said, almost to myself. "Then what for?" she asked, pen hovering. I thought back to my last call with Marissa, her talk of her dad's lost pension, the years she spent plotting to dismantle Malcolm's operation. "Justice," I said. At least, that's what she called it. Settling old scores, grudges, people who'd crossed her or her family. Jenna scribbled in her notebook. "Mr. Colton, would you go on the record about your experience with Carla Vance?" "Why?" I asked. "Because there are dozens of people out there thinking their lives fell apart by chance," she said. "They deserve to know it was a setup." I looked at this young reporter, so sure the truth could fix things, and I felt ancient. "What's the point?" I said. "The people she hurt are still hurting. The ones she helped put away are still locked up. Knowing it was all planned doesn't change a thing." "It changes everything," she said. "It's the difference between bad luck and a conspiracy, between owning your mistakes and being played." I thought about Abigail, 18 months into her 2-year sentence for crimes someone she'd never met had orchestrated. I thought about Malcolm, sitting in a Malta jail, probably still convinced his arrest was just business rivals flexing. I thought about myself, alone in a new apartment, trying to rebuild from the shards of a life someone had deliberately smashed. "No," I said. "I'm not going on the record. Some stories are better left buried." I shut the door and heard Jenna's footsteps fade down the hall. Then I poured myself a stiff whiskey and sat on my couch, thinking about the woman I'd known as Marissa Kent and the 20-year friendship that was never real. Outside, Sacramento sparkled in the dusk, full of people carrying their own tangled secrets. I raised my glass to the city and to the woman who taught me anyone could do anything with enough motive and time. "Here's to justice," I muttered to the empty room, then downed the whiskey and went to bed.